I see people. Okay. Hello, good morning. I see people are entering in the room. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Giovanna Giuffre from ISINNOVA, a consultancy based in Rome, and I will be the moderator of this cross-policy dialogue organized within the framework of the project EI for Soil Health. Is the second dialogue, and the title is Soil Health and the Common Agricultural Policy. Just while wait people to join in, I would like to remember Carlo Petrini, who passed away today, and he was extremely connected with consumption of food, but also how this consumption is linked with territory. And it was great to connect people, communities with agriculture. And he was the creator of slow food movement that some of you might know, but also of Terra Madre, a network of small farmers. And at least for Italy, was a visionary who tried to change things. And this quote that is from the website of Slow Food Movement really recalled the need also to look forward an aim to something very very high to change reality, and that we can actually do it. Just briefly for housekeeping rule, please keep your microphone muted if you're not speaking. There is a question and answer session after the two presentation. So we'd love to hear your question and write them in the chat, and we'll be able to answer them in this two moment. If you want to open your camera, name yourself so we know who are in the room. But if you don't want to, since this session is recorded, if you don't want to be registered, change your name and close your camera. This webinar is organized within the framework of EI for Soil Health. Is a mission soil project that aim to build an European-wide digital infrastructure for assessing, monitoring soil health metric and land use and management. Is a very big project. There are 28 partners representing different pedoclimatic region. The coordinator is Aarhus University. The territorial scope and approach is European and really aim to share knowledge, data, technology. I am not able to enter in all the detail of 4 years project with such a different soul inside, but you can visit the website that contains very interesting article on the different work, strand of work and soul of the project. Just a recap on the agenda that you should have with you, receive with this link. We will start with an introduction from Emmanuel Peter from DG Agri, and thanks for accepting to giving the landscape for common agricultural policy, soil health in the current and next CAP programming period. And then we will have a presentation from Simon Kramer from EARA, Executive Director, who will present performance-based policy for healthier soil and productivity. And then we will have two presentations from partner of the project. So from Giulio Valtiala from Luke, is a research scientist who really try to work, understand better soil health in CAP national plan. So her soil health indicator align with spending, more an economic perspective, followed by a demo of the new pan-European soil health viewer from Tom Hengel, OpenJoab technical director and vice chair, and Aditya Kushwaha, sorry if my pronunciation is not right, from OpenJoab, senior software engineer. So it's a very rich and diverse agenda, and I'm very happy to give the floor as the first speaker to Emmanuel Peter, and thank you again for accepting this invitation.
Thanks, Giovanna, sorry. Yes, I will ask Valentina to start by my presentation. And anyway, I'm coming from DG Agri, donc in European Commission, and we are dealing with common agricultural policy. And I will give you a broader view where we are in this common agricultural policy what we have achieved until now and what we are planning for the future. We can go in the next slide. Just anyway, just to give you the planning and the time schedule. And just to remind, in fact, we put on July 25, a new proposal for the CAP, and it is the context of a multi-annual financial framework, and is under discussion with the European Parliament and the Council. Just to underline on the fact, before delivering this new proposal, we had with dialogue with stakeholders, and there was a strategic dialogue for the future of agriculture policy, and we delivered as well a vision for agriculture and food in February 25. Just to give you where we are, but now I will enter in the next slide to give you what we have more or less achieved, even is a broader picture, I would say. Just to remind, in fact, to achieve something on environmental and climate, we have some scheme, and we have an eco scheme and agri-environmental climate measures, and just here there is as well the representativeness of eco scheme. Eco scheme can be implemented at least on 58% of EU agriculture area, while in agri-environmental climate, the coverage is more limited, it's 10% of the agricultural area. Here is a broader, I would say, picture, but we have a more detailed per member state. And just to remind you, in fact, this both scheme represent 28% of the public funding from the CAP. For the next slide, I will give you, for the next slide, I will give you what we have today under the performance monitoring and evaluation framework to have a specific, I would say, follow-up what is member states are doing. Just to remind, in this context, we have set up some result indicators, and we have some result indicator per topic, and we have this result indicator on as regard protecting and improving soil, and we have a result indicator on carbon sequestration. Result indicator on soil is now nomenclature is result indicator 19, and for carbon sequestration result indicator 14. There is other indicator, but I spot on this indicator because it's a key element for our webinar. Just to say, we asked member states at the beginning of when they set their CAP plan to set some target in relation with this result indicator, and now we can monitor what they have achieved, what was uptake for the farmer. Just underline on the fact as regards the result indicator 19, in a way as dedicated to the soil. At the beginning, member states are plan, the total, I would say, picture at EU level represents 40% of area under this result indicator. Now we are, when we look at the achievement, we are more for 50%. But yes, it's very broad monitoring, but just to underline, there is a key, I would say, action on for the soil. And if we go for the next slide, just to go more in detail what we can see under the result indicator 19, these result indicators for soil. We have classified some farming practices, and there is a breakdown per practices, and we see the share of the main practices. We need to admit some states there is a big share of mixed interventions. I mean, member states don't target a specific practices. They're mixed between crop rotation or soil cover or other action. And at some states there is more dedicated action. And in fact, crop rotation and crop diversification represent 20% of this farming practice under result indicators. There is organic farming and grassland and grazing management, and soil management is there as well, but it's only 9%. But in soil management, there is a soil cover and as well some specificity on the tillage management. I will not go very far in this presentation. We can discuss on it, but for the next slide, I will now see, I say, will provide key insight. What is our lesson learned from the current CAP and lesson learned for the next step. Just for us, it's important to give still emphasis on environmental and climate action in CAP. To have a balanced approach between incentivize and requirement, and we see requirement raise a lot of issue, and we cannot go further step on this concern. We underline the fact there is a necessity to have a better access to relevant knowledge, advice, information, and it's not always included in the intervention. We admit we need to upscale the use of result-based scheme, and we want to now to have a more, I would say, good view on the intervention, and we will merge, in fact, eco scheme and agro-environmental commitment in the same envelope, in the same way. And for the next step, now the next slide, I will go in now what we have proposed in July 25 for the next programming period 28-44. Just to remind, in fact, there was this vision, and just to say, in the vision, there is some key objective to keep attractiveness for the sectors, and to underline there is a need of competitiveness and resilience, still competitive, sustainability and fairness. In this vision, yes, we underline we need to continue to have income support for the farmer, but we need to, in fact, to have other opportunity to reward the farmer for ecosystem services, and from the market, for example, we ensure on the fact carbon farming or nature credit could be an opportunity for the farmer, and we are very sensitive on the fact how to have a more fairness on how to distribute the income support between the farmer and between different categories. And in this context, we in fact, we are aware of the fact we need to be adapted. Farmers need to be adapted in the relation with the climate change and to have a better resilience. And we are, in fact, aware of the fact there is a planetary boundary. Donc, we cannot avoid this discussion. Just the key objective and the vision. And the next slide, just to give you, we cannot discuss on it, but we have put, in fact, on the table the budget under the multi-financial framework from 28-34. And in this context, yes, there is a big envelope, a national and regional partnership plan. It represents at least, more or less 65 billion euro in this national regional partnership plan. And in this context, there is a dedicated envelope, ring fencing for the CAP regulation. Plus, there is some money for unity safety net when is a more crisis reserve. And if we put all figures together, we come at 300 billion euro for the CAP for the next period. Is a little bit less what we have planned today, because today is 380 billion euro. But we expect as well to have a margin under the national regional plan, because in the national regional plan, there is more half of the envelope, 450 million euros, which remain non-allocated to specific plan. So member states will have a margin to take money for this remaining non-allocated fund, maybe if there is a priority under the CAP. Look, I will go now with the next slide, and I will enter on this more what we are concerned today on the environmental and climate action. And just in a CAP regulation, we have some priority area. We have 6 priority area, and it is under Article 4, the next proposal. On the fact, member states need have the obligation to address some priority, and it's not new for us, but it's climate change, adaptation, and water resilience, mitigation greenhouse gas, emission, carbon storage, but there is as well soil health. Soil health is part of this priority to be addressed. And there is also priority on biodiversity. I will not develop here. But just to say that, and at some stage, next slide, please, we will, we'll use some tool, and what we have in CAP regulation is we have not so, I would say, innovative, because we are coming from a classical tool, but just to remind on the fact, if you look at this slide, there is on the right part, there is for the future how we see the green architecture, and we will be still first layer, and there is a mandatory requirement for the farmer. We will continue to have a kind of conditionality, and we will call it farm stewardship. It's a new name we provided. And in this context, member state farmer will suppose to, in fact, to fulfill with some provision coming from existing legislation of the outside of the CAP, like a nitrate directive, and is this SMR, statutory management requirement, but they will have still protective practices defined under the CAP, and I will develop further step. And above that, we assume the member state will design agri-environmental and climate action. And as you see, it will be only one labeling corresponding to the previous eco scheme today in Pillar 1, and the previous agro-environmental commitment under Pillar 2 today. We merge both actions to be addressed EU priority. And on the top of that, we will still have support for knowledge sharing and innovation, and support for investment for farmer and forest holder. For the next slide, I will enter more in detail on these different, element under the green architecture. There is a new farm stewardship system, which will include social conditionality. Just to say, there is two parts, as I mentioned: statutory management requirement coming from existing legislation. I will not go very far in detail, but as some said, there will be protective practices. And protective practices, there is a list of specific objectives to address, and there is a soil health. We underline there is a need to have a soil health. But I say but because it will be a basic requirement. We will expect to have a basic crop diversification defined by member state, and some key requirement to protect some soil against erosion in specific area when there is a slope. And above that, as we explained, and for the next slide, we expect to have agro-environmental climate action. But I will give you the fact it's based on Article 10 in the CAP proposal today, and there is two type of action, two approach. One will base on management committee, and another one on a transition action. Management committee will reflect what we have today, on the eco scheme, on agro commitment. We let member state to continue to have a payment per hectare, and in relation with some farming practices or combination of farming practices, to maintain and to uptake new practices, and to have a still annual or multi-annual contract. But we try to develop, and we will ask member states to have a transition action. And it's a new concept we introduced in this CAP proposal. It's just for some farmer who wants to go in a transition and to achieve a better performance towards environmental and climate concern. We consider we could provide a lump sum for farmer, not payment per hectare, but a lump sum for holding, and we could have some installment. We could have a first we can grant first payment at the beginning of the programming period, and after to have different steps to provide the final payment for the farmer. And it will be multi-annual transition plan. And in this context, we recommend to introduce as well some performance or result-based indicators to guide the farmer in this context of the transition action. And we recommend as well to have a first assessment and technical advice, and we expect to have input from advisory services in this context to design the transition action plan at the farm level. Donc it's more an innovation, and we are it's on the discussion with member state, but we have already started to discuss on that this week, and we have already present this slide. Okay, just for the next slide, just to give you the example and what we are expected on the management committee, and we have we have the current practice already supported, and we spot on the soil practice as well, and crop rotation, soil cover, zero tillage. But will continue. Member states have the room to continue in this perspective, but we spot on transition payment, and transition payment is more linked with a more holistic approach and organic farming, but we put some words like agroecological approach or regenerative agriculture. We put the line on agroforestry. We want to promote such holistic approach in the context of the transition payment. Donc now we need to have a support for in fact maybe a research project or for some other stakeholders at local level, because they need to guide the member state when member state will design that in their CAP plan. Just to I will now I have some slides just to present the next slide. I will not go in this detail in this slide. The next slide may be better. Today, just to say, we start to discuss with member states for the next step, and they need to plan some action for in the CAP, even it will be a broader national regional partnership plan, but there will be a dedicated part for the CAP. And in this context, we start to define, to provide some recommendation on environmental and climate issue. And just on this starting, we are on the discussion with member state, and we provide some indicator what we have for different topic, and we have soil health indicators, and we put an indicator on maintenance of soil organic content, soil compaction, water erosion, and harvest erosion. And just to say, these indicators are available and are coming from the European Soil Observatory, managed by Joint Research Center. And in this context of this European Soil Observatory, there is a soil degradation dashboard. And in this dashboard, we have harmonized, I would say, presentation of these different indicators per member state. And it's coming from Lucas. We are aware about Lucas, and Lucas land use land cover area survey, and based on Lucas 2009-2018, we have provided some indicator for member state. But it's just to have a discussion on the objective criteria for member states. If even member states argue on the fact they have their own analysis, but we try to have a common harmonized view at EU level. Donc, it's important to underline that when we start to discuss with member states for the future. And just for the next slide, I want to insist on the fact we will continue to have a common performance monitoring and reporting framework in the new, I would say, new framework nature. But we will have still some output indicators and result indicators. There is an annex under the regulation on national regional partnership plan is a specific an horizontal regulation, but in this horizontal regulation, there is an annex on as regards the output indicator and result indicator per intervention field. And if we consider intervention field as regards environmental and climate action under Article 10, we will ask as well to, in fact, to have some result indicator. And I insist on the fact on this result indicator will have still a share of agricultural error concerned by intervention field, but we will have a result indicator based on some metric. We insist on to have a result indicator on greenhouse gas emission, and it will be on CO2 equivalent. And we will have as well an indicator on increase on protection soil organic matter. That means today is under discussion. I don't know if we will achieve the discussion. It's just to say, member state will plan some action, but they will need to, in fact, classification their action per practices. It would be a labeling of practices, but for each practices, they should indicate the impact of the practice as regards the greenhouse gas emission and as regards the soil organic content. And is a huge, I think, huge work. And even for practices, we will try to provide some coefficient. But just to give you where we are and in which way we want to have a monitoring. Even it will be a rough monitoring, but just to indicate on the fact we need to come back at the practice and to make the link with the practice on some metric. And I think at the end of my presentation, there is a next slide just to give you, in fact, even there will be this specific common performance monitoring for the CAP. We have some, I would say, beside of that, we have other, I would say, tool, but there is as well a tool, we call it FSDN, is just a specific survey on farm suitability data network. Is a specific network. It will not represent all farmers, but there is some farmer involved in this network. And in this network, we expand a little bit the data. Today, it was more farm uncontency data, but now we'll have more data on some practice and at the farm level and the practice who have an impact on environmental issue. And we want as well, in the coming year, to develop a voluntary benchmarking system on farm suitability assessment. It's just to, we will not develop something, fix something at déjà gris level. Hein? It's just to refer what on existing, I would say, benchmarking system developed by stakeholders, but we'll have discussion with stakeholders and to have maybe to set some main principle or some main criteria when we want to refer to this benchmarking system to validate on the fact the reliability of this benchmarking system. But just to give you as well this element, it will be not maybe linked with the payment, but it will maybe be used by the farmer to guide the farmer he wants to go in a transition. I am at the end of the presentation, but I have to provide you an overview what is going on in the CAP.
Thank you, Emmanuel. It was great. It's always complex to understand common agricultural policy. There are so many layers. But I think it's good to have also insight on what is on the table for discussion and also to understand the coherence across soil monitoring law, common agriculture policy, nature restoration law, and also how user and national member state can organize themselves in order to make best use of data. And I do see a question from Simon Kremer. I hope the pronunciation is correct. That is the next speaker. And I think it's very well in order because he's actually present. He's from European Alliance for Regenerative Agriculture, who had proposed a major reform of common agriculture policy and also on how to reward agroecological performance and take more a farm-centric approach. So the question that maybe I take the chance to just do it immediately to Emmanuel is if there are plans under discussion for co-financing of member state. I don't know if you want you have already answered to that.
Yes, I will come on because we, in fact, yes, on this action, depending on the action, there is a co-financing requirement, and it would be the case for agro-environmental action. There is a percentage, I don't know, it's 20% or 30%, but we need to have a co-financing from member state, and it will be mandatory co-financing. Okay, it's part of the discussion because today on the ESCO scheme there is no co-financing. Is 100% financed by EU money, but in the future, all action, all previous ECO scheme or agro-environmental, there will be a mandatory co-financing from member state.
Thank you. And I see also Panos Panagos from GRC. Thank you. That raised the hand. I think we anticipate some questions for you, Emmanuel. I'm afraid there were some burning questions. So Panos, for you.
Yes. Thank you, Emmanuel. Excellent presentation and excellent overview. I'm wondering, you gave some very interesting numbers about the application of CAP strategic plans, which member states planned initially to apply in huge area of the EU agricultural areas. These are numbers in relation to plans. Can you please confirm that those are somehow applied? I mean, those that have been planned have been already applied, or do you check if the practice that have proposed by member states in certain areas are applied, or is just their plans? Because it's interesting to see also the effect. Thank you.
You want to mean when I talk about result indicators and there is as well what member states have planned, and after there is uptake by the farmer, and after is the first point as regards the quantification. At some stage, we have as well the design of the intervention by member state, and there was a first design with some requirements, and at some stage there was some amendment, and member state has changed a little bit the design of the intervention. But anyway, yes, but here is a broader picture, and at some stage we cannot go very far in detail about how member state have designed the practice in detail in our monitoring. Just we have a broad picture about the quantity of error, and we can split after this error per action, per type of practices. Yeah. I don't know if
even if the 9% that you showed in relation to soil health is relatively low, I see also other practices that will, of course, improve the soil health, which are around this practice. However, how is your, how in the future we can increase significantly this 9%?
You talk about 9%?
Yes.
Yes, but yeah. First, anyway, I want to say there is a 20%, 21% for crop rotation and crop diversification, and after there is 9% for soil management. Inside of the 21%, there is as well, I would say, catch crop. And for me, is more linked with the soil management. And for the future, I argue to put catch crop inside of soil cover. The next classification will be part of the discussion with GRC as well. How to anticipate this? Because I want to focus because for me, crop rotation, crop diversification is one point, but I think green cover is a key element for the future if you want to increase the soil organic matter. That is one of the
and
views.
also decrease erosion and decrease biodiversity as well.
We need to underline, we need to make more visible this action. And there is a mixed intervention. In mixed intervention, okay, sometimes is a mixture of basic action, or they integrate some biodiversity, buffer strip, and so on. But sometimes there is as well in mixed intervention, there is an idea to go more in conservation agriculture. That means they mix crop rotation, they mix a little bit the idea of soil cover, the idea of low tillage. But it depends on some member states. In some member states, in mixed intervention, they are going in direction of soil conservation. But yeah.
Thank you.
Just to go back, Lucas, I will ask you to make your question since you raised your hand, but then the answer will be after Simon's presentation, because otherwise we also prepare to the question. So since your hand is raised, I think it's good if you ask it, but then we will collect more questions, let's say in the question and answer question. Lucas, what do you think is a compromise?
No, I will go as far as possible. So thank you so much, Emmanuel, for your presentation. Thank you, Giovanna, for this interesting seminar today. So my question is really simple. We are working here with some soil indicator for farmers and so on. But when you check the general indicator you are using in the European level, in a general framework, then there is a need, at least for us, when we are working in Southeast Spain, really arid environment, there is a need to readapt some of the indicators. So my question is, there is a room for add new indicator to the general that the European Union is proposing in this legislation and so on?
Okay, I will let maybe.
It's not a short answer, I'm afraid.
No, for us, we need to have some different level. We need to have some indicator. Here, we are more at national level, and maybe it's important to focus more on regional level as much possible. And it's the spirit of the soil monitoring law, and to go at the district level. It provides a global picture, and okay, we can still discuss that with the farmer, because in each farmer there is some specificity and some stage. Yes, maybe in a transition payment, maybe it could be nice, relevant to have a more specific, I would say, information from the holding and from the farmer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Merci beaucoup.
I give the floor to Simon, and as I mentioned, is from the European Alliance for Regenerative Agriculture, and I think he will complement Emmanuel's presentation also from how we can improve and adapt common agriculture policy. Simon, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I also start by a big thank you for organizing this great webinar, and also thank you, Emmanuel, for this really wonderful overview. I'll share my slides. I hope you see them now in full screen.
Yes.
And I will also, I'll try to connect directly to Emmanuel's presentation, because as you said, we have been thinking and working in that direction for many years, also not only in the public sector, but also in the private sector. I will also share some examples of that, because there this kind of development is already much more advanced. And yeah, just maybe as a note before Emmanuel, I hope really that there's no cap on the co-financing of the member states, and maybe it could be an idea to think also or allow something like public-private co-financing, because now on the landscapes in many, it's very diverse across Europe. What I will bring also examples in Finland, for example. Now in Portugal, we have some really nice innovation also in the public sector. This can then team up with the private sector. And before going into that, so we talk about performance, soil health, and productivity, especially in our great crisis of these days. So I'll just before bring you some people, the farmers, and bring you some really detailed examples of what is the frontier of applied agronomic innovation today. And you will see, as Emmanuel shared, green cover is the A and 2Z. And then also, as Pangos said, you will see that the practices these farmers do are so diverse, so context specific, that if we want other farmers to achieve those results, we really need to go. And I think this transition stuff that's now discussed is a really great step towards it. This is a young guy. He has only 26 years of age. He's already consulting farmers all over the world. His grandpa started with no-till. He's now producing some of the record yields in rapeseed, and he's doing that without any insecticides, without any fungicides, and with a lot less inputs. So you see here, he has a continuous cover, always green. When he harvests the rapeseeds underneath, he has direct seeded for the autumn. He puts compost. He does straw herring, he uses a little bit of glyphosate, and then he has a very sophisticated plant structure, and then a little bit of herbicide, 1 fungicides, and 160 urea. And his yields are very good for this region in mid-eastern France. This is Peda, I have shown him many times, but that is sugar beet. You know, some of you plants have been made in, I mean, all of our industrialization, I'm German, was built on sugar beets. And he's now, as you see here, he has higher yields in one of the highest sugar beets yielding regions in the world and in Europe. So almost 100 tons of sugar beet per hectare, and he does it with almost 70% less synthetic fertilizer and 88% less total toxicity use. And he's also very sophisticated in what we now call precision cover cropping. Then this is another example for very poor soils on corn with very minimal low input, better yields than the neighbors in very drought-stricken years. Here you see the comparison of the neighbor fields to his. I'll also share the presentation afterwards. I'll go through quite quickly. This is an organic pioneer. You know, usually in grain we say organics have about 40 to 60% less yields. This friend here has only 20% less yields than the conventional neighbors, but is using across the board, of course, much less inputs and also much less fuel. And this is Giraud. He's quite close to Brussels. This is another amazing result. He's almost half the nitrogen inputs and still producing 10 tons of malting barley and also reduced fuel. From the livestock, we have similar examples. This farm was completely conventional until 2017. So that's actually an amazing example for the transition evolution. Is now a regenerative organic farm, almost completely in direct sales and producing very high milk yields of around 8,500 liters per year per cow, while having almost no inputs anymore from off the farm. And you see it here, it's with the green cover. So these guys are really advanced in better grazing management and agroforestry. And you see it here, it's almost 40% more plant growth on the same fields as their neighbors, basically with 0 inputs, which is crazy. And Christina has a similar example. We say if we produce beef in harmony with nature, we take so much land and so forth, and we have so much less yields, but actually this protein is also produced at a very high productivity compared to conventional production, but with a completely inverse impact on Mother Nature. This is the European total, just to show you again for the crisis. Now, these farmers produced on average the same yields as the national average farmers, but they used about 40% less fuel as we saw on the others, but also 61% less nitrogen. And now as phosphorus is also a crisis, as let's say we're losing our imperial power over the Saal, also 50% down. And it's all about producing more plants, assimilating more carbon via photosynthesis on the same land in the same time, here with on average 25% higher photosynthesis. And I'll go now a little bit in where that can go. And actually exactly as Emmanuel said, that is for arable farming, that's a difference we want to see. That's a farmer and his neighbor fields at the same time in Denmark. And we say erosion is not only on very steep plains. I farm on very steep plains, unfortunately. But there's also inner erosion. Already when you just have a tiny percentages, if we disturb the soil, there's a lot of inner erosion, for example, also in organic farming. So we really need to get into green planting. And this is, I think, the map we can look of. If we want to import less from outside Europe to be truly sovereign in our food security and therewith in our national economic security, at the same time as we want to regenerate nature, it's all about the photosynthesis that's available, the potential of the photosynthetic potential in the space. And this is a standard crop rotation in this Danish context. And of course, every European context has a different kind of this curve. But you see how much of income in terms of the European agriculture sector we leave untouched, basically. And this is now from our Finnish friends. It's, I think, one of the most advanced agricultural ministries in Europe on studying result-based subsidies, because they had a really good carbon farming program and they have a really good remote sensing university with the Helsinki Meteorological Institute. And they had a really good and open discourse with the pioneering farmer group there through the Baltic Sea Action Group initiative. So here they did an analysis on GPP. I mean, then we get into the details and we can do later if you like, but let's say photosynthesis, we can look at it through GPP calculations to net primary productivity calculations, which would be the best, but then we need to work with proxies basically, or then with NDVI remote sensing indicators, or now we're getting into FPAR remote sensing indicators. And you see here basically the different performances of the different land use systems on photosynthesis over the whole year. And then they basically are now probing how they could structure payments. This is not so much a transition payment, but the performance payment in their context. And you would see if you basically just attach the payments per hectare to the photosynthesis performance, how much would what kind of land use system get? Because then, of course, it's not just if you have an arable farm or a grassland or a permanent crop, but then, of course, also the management includes how much you're actually performing. And here you see, for example, continuous grass, so a grassland, from the very highest performance in the context, has also a little bit a very low performance. So there was someone overgrazing probably the grassland, and then there are others who are managing holistically or even put some agroforestry on the grassland and so forth. And then all the different winter crops and so forth. So this would, in that context, how the farmers, if we would just give the farmers money for photosynthesis, how many farmers would get what kind of money. And I think it's these kinds of studies we have to learn more about, so we actually understand, if we want to go to result-based payments, how that would impact the farmers on the ground. Here they have a very nice analysis done on the same thing, which is basically showing again the correlation of the productivity that we need, the soil organic carbon that we need, and then basically the input And I think the soil organic carbon content, which I will show later some examples, we could measure that too, but it's of course more costly. But the photosynthesis performance, and I don't know, our friends here later from the GeoHub will probably go into that too. A lot historical data of basically the same indicators is used to map and predict soil organic carbon in other models. That was just on the photosynthesis. I'll show now more complete examples, because there are examples in the private sector which basically bring already together different actors in transition consortia, which then pay farmers for improving performance. And it's really good that it's happening like this, because now I was just last week again with big for example, the chief finance officer of Nestle, so the largest, they buy food for 34 billion a year, and they are completely into that out of a business strategy. Then we also have our differences on how they measure and so forth, but they're into it. But the lever, as with the CAP itself, also in the commission, you make that argument, we can't do it alone. Also our 300 billion can't do it alone. So it's really on the hectare for the transition. If Nestle can give 10 euros, the CAP gives 30 euros, and so forth. And here is one very good working example in France, PADV. I'm not exactly sure, and I didn't have time to ask, but I think it's somewhere around, if the farmer scores more than 50 points, they get 100 euros per hectare, and if they score more than 65 points, they get 150 euros per hectare. And they have this agronomic support program, and this is basically the example of their mix out of practice application and results, although they're constantly working on this and are trying to go ever more towards results. Then here is an agri-purpose example. This is now a live project. It's also officially a third-party certified. You see here also basically the landscape productivity and protection. So that is the photosynthesis and the soil cover of the field against the pedoclimatic region, and then which basically takes out the weather and the soil and judges only the performance of the farmer's management. And then they look here also in landscape vitality, which is precision mapped soil organic carbon percentage, tons, bulk density, pH, and some other nutrients. Also, for example, this is now being discussed to be applied in Brazil, where then the nutrients which are decisive are adapted to context. And then for resource efficiency here, the yield is basically looked at against the inputs. So having this productivity thing in mind, it's not enough to just build soil organic carbon if our yields are imploding, so to say. And this is actually now being rolled out at 5 euros per hectare. And I think that is also a cost that can go down, because it's a commercial price. It's not a public-private scaling price and so forth. In PADV, one should say, the whole system of MRV and PADV and agronomic support is paid by the state. So they also have a kind of, it's already a public-private engagement from the very beginning. This one is so far only commercial. What we think, but this is now, I think, outdated in what Emmanuel has proposed, but I think could be applied in what you show, let's say, under, I'm still not so fluent in the new terminology, let's say what we thought of as pillar 2 with AECMs and then the transition thing. So let's think of this only of a operationalization for the transition is basically a little bit what the agri-purpose thing showed. So we can do the photosynthesis and soil cover in pedoclimatic context comparison at zero cost. Basically, it's our own satellites. We can now basically ask and copy algorithms and probably GeoHub here can execute it in 2 days, I would assume, but we will see. I think what would be really interesting, of course, is to patch that up with the public or some public-private, but other private landscape lands. I mean, there are many more, like I showed PRDW. We are currently doing a report where we are collecting these examples to show them. I think maybe some kind of progressive or degressive applications also in the transition costs for young farmers, for women farmers, for small farmers would be really great, in the sense that if you already have a 3,000 hectare farm and you have good performance, I can also pay you, but per hectare should be less than a smaller farmer or a new entry farmer or a young farmer. I think I will sketch this. This is basically the agri-purpose operationalization from IP. I wanted to show the money too, because currently we have a potential where, let's say, farmers are getting different sources of money per hectare. In these kinds of transition consortia, I hope we can finally kind of scale out and really operationalize the remuneration of farmers for their services. What we have invested a lot of hopes, let's say, in the last year to have extra money from voluntary carbon markets to do that. That money doesn't exist and it's not coming back. I mean, we probably, but I think the money out of the agri-food system for building its own resilience is real capital money that wants to come in and needs to be harmonized with the way we pay these transitions from the public. So I want to thank you very much. I always say this, we really are convinced that we are in the fourth agricultural revolution of humanity, and we can help all our farmers to lead it for the health of all of our fellow beings. Thanks.
Thank you, Simon. It was great, and I think it's really important to see that it's possible, can be done. Now we have to manage how to do it, how to guarantee also the risk of transition is not just taken by farmers, but also guaranteed and supported by institution and incentive, with a special attention with small or new entry farmers, and female farmers have also to play a role. And so I think it's inspiring, it's possible, and it's critical that it's done now. And it's good also to look indicators that connect environment with economic. It's not always easy to do. So thank you. I'm afraid we're a bit late, so I think we will try to answer to the question at the very end. But if you want to try to make some reference already in the chat, so I leave it up to the speakers and also to the audience. Please write your question. We'll try somehow also to go back to you, but unfortunately the time is very limited. So, and we want all the speakers to have also the opportunity to present. So I give I give the floor to Juho, that actually was also organizing, orchestrating how this webinar was organized. So it's the mind behind also the organization. And Juho, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Giovanna, and I suppose you see my slides. And also thank you, Simon. So it's always nice to hear that Finland is top notch at some aspects. So my presentation goes to CAP strategic plan. So from the commission level to the national level, and as a short introductory background. So as actually Emmanuel noted, so in the current program period, we have quite a large area of agricultural land covered. So they receive subsidies on sustainable soil health practices. So it's a quite high increase due to eco schemes launched this period. And as Emmanuel also noted, that there are results indicators. So I have considered basically 4 indicators in my analysis. and its intervention in CAP strategic plans must have these results indicators attached. So the most important is improving and protecting soils, but also the carbon storage and sustainable nutrient management, and also the sustainable and reduced use of pesticides. And the main data source for my analysis, and also as an advertisement, so JRC has made a good work to compiling all the data from national strategic plans to make it a uniform database. So I've downloaded a lot of data, so you can also try yourself. But I have made 2 analyses based on actual soil health indicators, and also the strategic plans, interventions and spending, so which were from that data portal. And in the first analysis, I examined farm practices which are linked to soil health, and in the second analysis, I compared the CAP spending on soil health and actual soil health indicators, so how they are aligned, or are they? And so why should we even focus on soil health in strategic plans? So we have other policy goals as well. So I think the member states don't have freedom or shouldn't have a freedom to just ignore soil health for other policy goals, simply because it's impossible to produce food and farm income sustainably in the long run without healthy soils. So the first analysis, what I found was that there are, of course, soil health related practices mentioned in each strategic plan, but only half of those plans covered all the aspects of soil health. So there is I would say, an incomplete mix of practices. And but what I also found that the soil sampling was acknowledged in most of the plans. So farmers are incentivized to have their soils tested and to get the basic data to improve their soils from the soil tests. And the second analysis, this is just a very brief method around starting point for future work. I just
There is difficulty.
Yeah, we're having trouble hearing you. I see you've turned your camera off. It's a problem with the connection. Oh, he disappeared. Okay, here you are.
Am I now back?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, I will share again.
Do you want to share? If you want me to share, let's try again.
It is okay now?
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue. So yes, so I was I don't know how much did you miss, but I was at the point of explaining the second analysis, and
here this slide we lost you in this slide.
Oh yes, good. Okay, so just to illustrate the results from this analysis. So these are just sample graphs. So this is the overall picture, sort of. So there are the share of healthy soils from all the agricultural land, and also the share from total spending. So what we see here is that there is a huge variation between the levels of ambition and well, how these monies are spent across the member states. So this analysis is not telling anything about the causal relationship, and it doesn't really consider differences in the national frameworks and differences between these practices. But it does indicate that there is a misalignment between the CAP spending and actual results. So it increases the likelihood that the policy is quite inefficient in this way. So there is also the indicator-specific results, and it's not really changing from the overall picture. So so there is no systematic association between the results and the spending. And why do we even care about policy efficiency? So of course, because it's public money, we want that we want to for all the public money we spend, we want as much the wanted results as possible. And I would say that the soil health issues are not systematically assessed by national strategic plans at this point. So there is a room for improvement in this sense. And around 5th or 4th of CAP spending in each member states, they somehow relate to soil health. So I think that's quite a big number. And 3 policy recommendation or future pathways to at least to think about, which stems from the analysis, is that first, I think there is a need for sort of results or performance-based element in allocating the whole CAP budget. So it is possible to add some performance-based element for the CAP budget. So the better member state performs, the larger share they get from the total budget. So that would incentivize or reward member states from performing better, or to put it another way, it compensates from pursuing these results. And actually, we studied these kind of models, and we found that this can actually work in practice, but that's only a theoretical inspection. But the real policy is always more complicated. And when it comes to these practices, so when we are currently in a practice-based paradigm, to say we should have the complete mix of different soil health practices, so that farmers would be incentivized to consider all the aspects of soil health. And I think, for example, organic farming, well, it serves for different aspects of soil health, but it's sort of take it or all nothing. So I think it would be better to make those practices more acceptable or accessible in this sense. So as Simon is a big advocate of results-based policy, so am I. So the alternative for this is to adopt these results-based schemes in a far more partial level to move the focus from defining and monitoring those practices to defining and monitoring the performance. And the last thing is that we really don't, or we really cannot afford inefficient policy. So if we spend the fourth or fifth in each member state for soil health, so it shouldn't be a must income support, but it should provide the results we want. And one or the options, there are many to improve the efficiency of the policy. So one is to tighten the requirements for conditionality. So each farmer has to do more to have the basic income subsidy, but also the first thing which each member state should do is to target the spending better according to soil health indicators. So, for example, if a country has very much pesticide polluted soils, they should really target to reduction of pesticides. And the next step in this analysis is to go actually to examine more closely how efficient these strategic plans are for soil health, and this is also something which Commission is constantly doing. And hopefully we in the future we have healthier soils with less euros spent. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Juho. I think it was great to connect indicator spending, looking back, but also having some suggestion for going forward. I see the hand of panels raised. I think a little question before Tom's presentation.
Yes, very short. Very interesting. I really enjoy this correlation that you try to do between soil health and the spending. And I'm co-author both of Prevalle and I'm the one who has developed the European soil health dashboard in the GRC. So I want to say that there is an issue because at this scale, at this moment, you cannot find the correlation. Why? Because the picture that we get both from the dashboard and the Prevalle nature communication is just the static one, where we are. Even if you spend a lot, I mean, it's the point that where we start from. The interesting stuff is to see the delta in a few years, if the situation will improve. I mean, to see where it will spend more, if the situation will improve. This is very important point, first point. And the second point, which is very important, and I'll give you an example. Now we monitor indicators, the delta, the difference between different periods for certain indicators like soil erosion, carbon, etc. And I can say that, for example, for soil erosion, we see very positive results. I mean, the GAEC and the CAP had very positive results in reducing erosion by at least 20% in the EU in all countries. So the spending was really had an impact. For certain other indicators like organic carbon, it takes quite long. I mean, it takes more than 10 years to see differences. So please take this into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think we'll be...
May I comment?
Yep.
Well, yes, thank you, Panas, and I fully agree what you say. And I would say that at this point, my aim was not to prove that that some amount of spending will lead to better soil health, but just to see whether these are generally aligned across member states. And of course, we don't know because the program period was different than the previous one, so we we cannot directly compare these.
Exactly.
But the efficiency of this policy.
Exactly.
So for example,
for some of them we see signs of improvements, but
yes.
signs certain directions. But as I told you, this will be able to give more certain responses around 2030 when we have a delta for many indicators, a difference between many indicators. So let's hope. Thank you.
For example, many countries have a large gap. So their target values, for example, commitments to reduce pesticides measured per hectares, that's not aligned with the polluted soils from pesticides. So there are large gaps, and this was sort of the aim to at this point to describe this type of efficiency. But I'm really excited to look forward this delta. So when we have a time series, then we can see really the causations and other things.
Thank you, Juho and Panos, for also the question. I think we need to move to the final presentation that is from Tom Engel of OpenGeoHub, together with Adita Kushpa, and is a demonstration of the new Pan-European Soil Health Viewer. Tom, the floor is yours.
Thank you. You see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm not sure how much time I have. I do share enthusiasm with the presenters, and I want to share some enthusiasm, not so much about the farmers and policy, but about technology and data. So Giovanna, just tell me how much time we have.
You have 15 minutes up to the end of this webinar, and I'm afraid the question will be deal afterwards somehow. So we will give you the whole slot from here to the end.
So I'm representing the Soil Health Project Special Work Package 5. We just had a meeting in Thunen in Germany, and we are working on finishing many components of the and deliverables in there for Soil Health. In December in Thessaloniki, there's a conference, Soil Health Now, and we will then be releasing most of these outputs. And one of the key outputs of the Soil Health project is Soil Health Data Cube, which we have now version 1.1. We did some fixes from the version 1.0. And we are also working on integrating the Soil Health Data Cube with the European data produced by European Commission and European Environmental Agency, European Space Agency, and also we are integrating cadastral data. From countries in Europe, we already have 12 countries cadastral data, and we are organizing this trying to run a very efficient framework. And the data we produce, for example, is shown the dynamics of soil organic carbon stocks. So this data we also have a peer review publications, and so they document all the technical steps and all the discussion. And you can see here on the right is the density of points we use for training. And so there's a difference. For example, soil organic carbon content, soil organic carbon density, it's a bit less points. And we combine the Lucas data with national data. And we are building multiple soil properties. We can extend it. The system is automated, currently running on quantal regression and forest. And we produce predictions in space and time. We call it 3D plus time. And also we produce indices, biophysical indices from Earth observation data. Currently, we're processing a Landsat from 2000 to 2025, but we also we're just downloading Tessera, and we'll be processing European data from 2017, 2025, 26. And so I just want to show you very quickly. So this is the platform where you can access this data, Soil Health Data Cube, and this is our Soil Health Viewer. I'm looking for in some area. This is in Estonia. I would zoom out a bit, and then I zoom in. So I'm looking at some area in Estonia. You can see this is the cadastral data. So if I turn on cadastral data, I can see actual cadastral units. And here I'm looking at soil pH, predicted multiple depths, so I can go for different depths, also deeper soil. And I'm looking at the topsoil now, and I can scroll through time. I can see what happened with pH at this area. And I was looking at some areas, different areas. So I just want to show, just to visualize what does it mean, this soil data cube. So if I select some location here, you can see we will get immediately queried. We query the values of pH through time with the uncertainty. So that's the prediction uncertainty per pixel. So for every pixel, we see the uncertainty. And so what you see here, it shows that the like, let's say, longer term pH was relatively low, 4.7. And then you see at some moment it went high, 4.6. So it's kind of increased, sorry, 5.5. So it significantly increased, the pH looks like increase. And I can maybe zoom in a bit just to look at that, but it's difficult now to validate that because there are some, I mean, I cannot now fly to Estonia to validate this. So what I use, thanks to Esri for releasing this data in Esri way back, so I can go here, look at the same area. Now I'm looking at the same area, but at very high resolution. And I can actually zoom in now. This is like 30 centimeter, and I can see even individual trees. And you see, if I go back to 2014, you see this plot was a forest. And if I scroll through time, I can see at some in some year, this, you see 2019. So this forest was probably managed. So they cut the forest, and then this you can compare with this pH change. So if you look at here, it matches. So we are talking also 2018 somewhere. You can see that this pH increasing. So that matches. And if I zoom in even more, I can see, okay, so they cut the forest. So what did they do with this land? Well, they replanted the forest. And so you can see little trees. And you see 2024, these trees are coming back. And this forest is a boreal forest, probably spruce or pine trees, I don't know. But they tend to impact the soil. The boreal forest, they impact the soil and they decrease the pH. And if you look back in this thing I showed you, so you see there was an increase in pH, but you see in the recent years, 2023 to 2022, you can see that the pH is again going down. So we correctly also predict that now, because the trees are coming back, so most likely there will be needles dropping on soil and the pH will again decrease. So this just to show you that you can, with this Echo Data Cube, you can validate things, you can check, and you can also, if I zoom in a bit out, you can also look at land cover and pH and all these changes, not only at point level, but we can also look, I can select the whole farm. So now I see the whole farm. And what happens now, I estimate only mean change. So now you see that it's much less. You don't see that jump because now this is the mean over the whole polygon. So even though there was a change in this little corner, but in average for that polygon, the change is much less. So I can just go find the farms and do all these checks. And we also have a satellite data, for example, very high resolution images. Now I'm just looking near infrared band. So now you're looking at something which is bi-monthly. So a lot of data. So if I scroll through different seasons, you can see all the changes. We also have a tillage index for every farm in Europe for last 25 years. We have, of course, vegetation indices. And so there's a lot of data that you can really follow in detail things. So that was a bit about the Echo Data Cube very quickly. Now pass it on to my colleague Aditya, who is going to also show you the AI functionality in that Echo Data Cube. So Aditya, you can take over.
Thank you, Tom. I will like to continue after that. What we build with the Eco Data Cube. In a nutshell, it's like we have all these data sets. It's around right now we have 67 data sets total, and we have this AI chatbot which can like analyze all this data for a normal user which does not know about which data set to like. As Tom said, like we have a lot of data sets. Like for a normal user, what that data means does not matter. So what we have is our own eco data AI that can like someone can ask about like which crop can I grow or something like that, which management practices I need to do on my farmland, something like that. And it based on all the data sets, it find out the data set that is relevant to that question, analyze all this data, like do zonal statistics, time series analysis, and all on its own, and try to find out the actual output that it want to like give it to the user. And what the platform is like, as we said, it's a multi-dimensional soil health system. So we find all the data in one place so that we can like select between depths, variables, time, and all what Tom presented. And also like it's empowering the normal user as well, not just soil scientist or someone who knows the soil, but a normal user who can like just query the data sets and have their analysis on for the farmland, for their point, pixel level, and all. So yeah, and the what's different between the like WebGIS in general we have and the EcoData platform is that in traditional geospatial there is barrier for like what are the data sets, how we can visualize it, what we can get it and all. But what we did was like put in an agentic solution where like you don't need to know about any type of layer that we have and all. Just ask your question and it's all there. The AI will do all this finding the data set and analysis and all. So yeah, what's why what we are doing is like how the AI works is like it goes to like, for example, I ask some questions and it try to like find which data sets first it needed for that analysis. Is it time series analysis? Is it journal analysis and all? It does all. I combines as well and it provides a like time series chart or all this output as well. So I will just give us a nice recap as well. But yeah, it's something like that, and it gives you all these details about like how things are going and how you can analyze it and all how it's analyzed. So it's not something like ChatGPT where you go and ask a question, but it's like analyzing the real data and give you the insight of based on that real data. So it's like a correction on that solution. So yeah, and then yeah, it also comes in like all supported language. You support language, so any person from any other region of the EU can like ask in their own language, and it's try to give the answer in the same language so that a normal person from any other country can have their own queries in their language. So we are trying to support as much language as we can so that it's easy for any other farmer to like have a question on this platform. Oh yeah, it's live now on ecodatacube.eu, but it's in open testing. We are currently doing a testing for that. So it's nice that if you can try it and give us a feedback just to like, I will try to show you some like the same place. I can just go it here and like I have my own questions like what you want or something like that. I don't know about what the layers are. It doesn't matter. I just come here and say like what kind of crop can I grow here, and it's like reasons like what user is trying to ask and all. So you can see the thinking of the LLM as well, like how is things like what are the things needed, what user is asking, and how it can analyze it all. So you can see like how it's like thinking and what are the data set it find it like these are the data sets like what the user is asking for or something like that, and then it can analyze the things as well. So yeah, we can do that as well, and it gives the answers based on the user queries, and you can like requery as well. Like for example, if I want for this place, I just copy the for this I will say, and it remembers what you asked above, and it can like reason based on the second query, and it gives the answer based on that. So yeah, you can like reason, and you can always go back here. We have history, so you can always go back to your previous conversations if you have, and you can get your answers based on that. It's not just based on this data set we have, but we have all our documents like policy documents and the different resource document which we as an admin can put in for the platform, which the AI can reason and get the answer for you. For example, if we put in the policy document, so if you ask something around the policy, it can give the answer as well. But yeah, we cannot like it's AI reasoning everything. So yeah, there can be some wrong interpretation or sometimes wrong reason. But yeah, that's why we have this collecting open testing right now, and we have this feedback scenario for now. So if you are testing and if you find something that's need to be improved or that needs to be added, so yeah, we are welcoming everyone to have a feedback for us so that we can improve our scenario and make it more comfortable for normal user to come to our platform and have this AI chatbot, and they can analyze everything. And other than that, it has like we have all many other tools as well, like to help you with your own data set, so you can have your upload your own data set, we can analyze, and we are gradually adding more and more tools in the future so that it's easy for like normal user in the field to get all these data sets and all. So yeah, for example, it gets the data sets and all, like sand, how much sand, silt, clay, and it gets it. I don't like as a normal person, we may don't know that there are like sand silts or other layers, but the AI goes and finds everything and give you like which crop is suitable for which season, and yeah, it's like it's you get it what you like. That's it from my side. I
And
think.
Aditya, maybe also mention that this is like all, like it's not just a simple LLM. I mean, we combine the geospatial queries and geospatial analysis. You can see in the prompt, we combine it with questions, and we can train it. We plan to train it with more and more documents and data. And we will expand this LLM so to be very much like European soil health oriented, and we will be in control. So we are not. It's not some open AI or Microsoft, I don't know, company will train the model. So we are in control training the model, and we will. Question is like how accurate it is. We will publish. We will do benchmarking, and we will publish regularly. Let's say every 6 months, we can benchmark and publish the results of how accurate is this, because we can cross-validate it. So far I don't see any issues. It is doing actually what we will be doing. It just replaces us in a way and makes it, instead of like only people specialize understanding GIS being able to use this tool, like everybody could use it, just asking plain questions: how much soil carbon I have in my farm. And because the cadastral data is now also available, if people know which is their cadastral unit, they can just go in. This is Estonia, yeah. So you can just go to your cadastral unit and I say, this is my cadastral unit, and say, how much soil carbon I have, what's my pH, what can I grow here, what's my potential. And then what I saw in today's talk, Joanna, from the colleagues, and there was a questions about, can you combine this with some econometric analysis. So if any simple algebra, where you say, if I have so much ton of this and I, multiply over 4 years or something, that's very simple algebra. We can all integrate that. And then when people also ask questions, they could also ask questions about finances, which I think many farmers, they're very practical. Probably they look, how much this costs me, how much can I maybe leverage on, if I want to improve soils, what should I now invest in, and which company should I contact, and things. So all these things that can be integrated and made like seamlessly available, all the way up to 9 million. I think there's 9 million European farmers, so we could make it very easily available. It's just if all 9 million will now come and start using EcoDataQ, probably it will crash because we run it on our infrastructure. So we need to, before it goes out, we need to look at to scale it up a bit to make it fully robust. So please come in December. We have a Soil Health Now 2026, and then we'll have a workshops, and it will be more serious. Hopefully, we'll also update the Soil Health Data Cube with the Lucas 2022. So hopefully we will do all these updates, and so you'll have really cutting edge everything. And then because we are closing also project in end of December, so please come in Thessaloniki in December. Soil Health Now 2026.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Tom, also for having a speed presentation. And I know that it's complicated because it's such a huge massive effort of integrated data. And for sure, I think next project, next decade will be also of integrated economic, social aspect within the data. I think there are some nice suggestions also in the chat from Simon, now also to look at other project or output that can be inspirational, and also how to integrate additional input from EARA database on solution and result. So I think we need an additional meeting for for discussing the way forward, also from how to use digital tool for policy. And I have a final slide, but I can also just mention this is a series of dialogue trying to connect research output with policy. The next one will be on climate and carbon soil health in climate and carbon policy, and the final one on soil health and water nexus. Both will be in June. So I hope to see many of those that participated today also in these two additional webinar. And we really try to connect science with policy, because I think now is the moment to speak up and connect the dots. So also to build on cooperation of this different result. Thank you really for all the speakers for the time. I think is not the end, is the start of a friendship or a work together on trying to connect research output, policy, activism of farmers towards a better and more sustainable management of land and soil. And thank you all. I'm afraid we didn't manage to answer to all the questions, but we had some time limitation. And I really wish you all a nice weekend. And we will share the recording of this seminar, of this webinar into this AI for Soil Health YouTube channel. We don't have the slide as there were different owners, but the recording, and for those speakers who want to share the slide, please let us know. We will do a follow-up mail to all the participants with the link where you can find the recording, where you can okay, great. We do see some speakers agree to share the slide. So for if we manage to have the slide of all and the recording, and we will also do a brief trying to connect different policy and science by October of this year. Thank you all. Bye.
Ciao, bye.
Thank you.
Ciao. Thank
Ciao.
you. Bye.